Picture this. It's October 1962. For 13 days, the world held its breath. One wrong move, one misread signal, and nuclear missiles could have rained down on major cities across the globe. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought humanity closer to the edge of annihilation than ever before. This is the story of the closest we've ever come to Armageddon, and how a few bold decisions kept the world alive. The year was 1962, and the Cold War was at its deadliest point. The United States and the Soviet Union weren't just rivals. They were enemies with the power to destroy each other in a single morning. America had placed nuclear missiles in Turkey and Italy, aimed directly at Soviet cities. The Soviets, feeling cornered, secretly began sending their own missiles to Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. Meanwhile, in Havana, Fidel Castro had taken full control of Cuba after his revolution in 1959. He feared another U.S.-backed invasion, and the Soviet missiles promised protection, but they also turned Cuba into the most dangerous hotspot on the planet. By mid-October, U.S. intelligence confirmed the truth. Soviet nuclear missiles were in place in Cuba, ready to strike. Cities like Miami, Washington, D.C., and New York were suddenly within range. For the leaders of the free world, it was a nightmare come to life. Every day counted. Every decision mattered. And for 13 days, the entire world waited, trapped in a tension so thick it could almost be felt. On October 14, 1962, everything changed. A U-2 reconnaissance plane, flying high over Cuba, captured photographs that would shock the United States and the world. Hidden deep in the Cuban countryside were Soviet nuclear missile sites, medium-range missiles capable of striking major American cities within minutes. When the photographs reached President John F. Kennedy and his top advisors, the room fell silent. The reality of what they were facing was terrifying. For the first time, nuclear weapons were stationed so close to American soil. The world had entered a new and unprecedented level of danger. For Kennedy, there was no time to waste. Every option carried unimaginable risk. Military strikes could destroy the missiles, but they could also trigger a Soviet retaliation. Diplomacy could take time the missiles did not afford. Meanwhile, in Washington, the Joint Chiefs of Staff argued for immediate action. Some officers demanded an airstrike. Others pushed for a full invasion of Cuba. But Kennedy knew that a hasty move could ignite a war the world might never recover from. Across the ocean, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev was unaware that the United States had discovered the missile sites. Any miscalculation on either side could have been catastrophic. In those tense hours, the slightest misstep, a misunderstood order, a false alarm, or an overzealous commander could have triggered nuclear war. The stakes were clear. For the next 13 days, the fate of the world hung in the balance. Every decision, every word, every action mattered. The clock was ticking, and humanity was watching, often unaware, as leaders danced on the knife's edge of annihilation. October 16, 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis officially begins. For 13 days, the world teeters on the brink of nuclear war. President Kennedy faces an impossible choice. Military leaders urge immediate airstrikes on Cuba, followed by an invasion, a move that could destroy the missiles but also risk Soviet retaliation. The White House debates every scenario, weighing the cost of action versus inaction. On October 22nd, Kennedy takes a bold step. He goes public, addressing the nation on television. He announces a naval quarantine of Cuba, a blockade to prevent further Soviet shipments of missiles from reaching the island. It is a careful balance of force and diplomacy, designed to pressure Khrushchev without triggering a full-scale war. The world watches nervously as U.S. ships intercept Soviet vessels in the Atlantic. Tensions spike with every passing hour. On October 24th, a Soviet ship approaches the quarantine line. The world waits, holding its breath, as the vessel slows and then turns back. Disaster is narrowly avoided. By October 26th, the crisis reaches its peak. Khrushchev sends 2 letters to Kennedy. The first is conciliatory, offering to remove the missiles if the United States guarantees not to invade Cuba. The second is far more aggressive, demanding that America remove its missiles from Turkey. The White House is gripped by anxiety. Every advisor knows that a wrong move, misreading the letters or reacting hastily, could trigger nuclear war. On October 27th, events escalate further. An American U-2 spy plane is shot down over Cuba, killing the pilot. Military commanders call for retaliatory strikes. Kennedy makes a critical decision: restraint. He chooses to respond to the softer conciliatory letter while secretly agreeing to remove U.S. missiles from Turkey, a move that remains classified for decades. For 13 days, the world had been on a knife's edge. A single misstep, a misunderstood order, or an impulsive decision could have unleashed catastrophic nuclear war. Yet, through careful diplomacy, patience, and a willingness to compromise, Kennedy and Khrushchev steered the planet away from annihilation. Even as diplomacy unfolded, the world teetered on a razor's edge. Behind closed doors, both the United States and the Soviet Union faced moments that could have triggered nuclear war. Moments historians now call the closest humanity has ever come to total annihilation. On the Soviet side, early warning systems occasionally misread routine military exercises as potential U.S. attacks. Officers in command bunkers prepared to launch missiles, only to realize the alarms were false. A single misjudgment at that moment could have turned a tense standoff into a catastrophic strike. In the United States, some military leaders pushed for immediate airstrikes after the U-2 was shot down. Jets were armed, pilots briefed, and plans drawn for invasion. The tension in the Pentagon was palpable, a split-second decision. A wrong order and millions of lives could have been lost. Even ordinary signals carried weight. A miscommunicated radio message, a misunderstood maneuver at sea, or an unplanned missile test could have escalated the crisis beyond control. Every day, world leaders were forced to balance fear and restraint, knowing that one impulsive act could ignite global catastrophe. Yet, in these moments of extreme danger, careful thinking and human judgment prevailed. Kennedy resisted calls for immediate military action. Khrushchev held back from responding aggressively to U.S. maneuvers. The world's fate hung on their ability to stay calm, deliberate, and flexible, qualities that would ultimately prevent disaster. These close calls reveal a sobering truth. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world survived not because of superior technology or overwhelming power, but because human restraint, patience, and careful diplomacy prevented the unimaginable. October 28, 1962. After 13 days of unprecedented tension, the world finally began to breathe again. Nikita Khrushchev announced that the Soviet Union would remove its nuclear missiles from Cuba. In return, the United States secretly agreed to dismantle its missiles in Turkey, a deal that would remain classified for decades. The Cuban Missile Crisis ended not with an explosion, but with careful negotiation, compromise, and restraint. Kennedy's decision to avoid immediate military action and Khrushchev's willingness to de-escalate had prevented what could have been a catastrophic nuclear war. The crisis left a permanent mark on history. The United States and the Soviet Union established a direct hotline between Washington and Moscow to allow instant communication in future emergencies. Both superpowers recognized the fragility of human survival in the nuclear age. Cuba remained a flashpoint, but the lessons of October 1962 reshaped global diplomacy and Cold War strategy. Most importantly, the Cuban Missile Crisis demonstrated that even the most powerful nations could be brought to the brink and saved by human judgment, patience, and courage. A single misstep could have ended millions of lives. The world came dangerously close to Armageddon. And yet, through careful diplomacy, it survived. Today, we remember those 13 days as a stark reminder. History is not just shaped by weapons or armies, but by the choices of people in moments of extreme pressure. The Cuban Missile Crisis remains a testament to the power of restraint, negotiation, and humanity at the edge of annihilation.